The old woman was staring at the bronze cauldron in front of her, inside of which a fire was being kept alive by bellows. She watched intently as a man in his 60s began to throw handfuls of small pebbles into the mix. The old woman's name was Adelina, and she had been a herbalist for more than half a century. But this wasn't an ordinary potion that the old man was brewing today. No, this was a special concoction, one that was used to make something that would bring her great wealth and fortune. You see, Adelina wasn't your typical herbalist. Sure, she could brew up all kinds of healing salves and sleeping potions if the need arose, and sure, she made a pretty penny selling her wares at the marketplace. But Adelina had bigger dreams for herself and her trade. If there was a rich lord or lady who came to her shop with a problem, like say their son or daughter was afflicted with a strange illness that no priest could cure, Adelina would take the opportunity to ask for a huge sum of money in exchange for a cure. If they agreed, she would then make a simple potion, sell it to them for a king's ransom, and then give them a vial filled with just water. This isn't to say that Adelina was stupid, because she certainly wasn't. In fact, she was very intelligent. After all, she had spent decades conning people out of their gold pieces. But there were limits to what she could charge someone, especially when the person was rich, but also frugal. There were also limits to how much gold one could carry around with them, which is why Adelina was always looking for ways to increase the amount of money that she could get from her marks. That's when she heard about Bel, a bell that was said to be cursed and made out of human bones. Whoever possessed it could make enough money in a single day to live like royalty for an entire year. Adelina didn't believe in curses, but she did believe in making money. So when she heard that the local baron was looking to sell Bel because he feared the curse, Adelina decided to purchase it. Now, she had the bell brought before her, and the old man in front of her, whose name was Theodore, was going to help her unlock its power. He was, after all, a wizard of some renown. Adelina paid him handsomely to assist her with this little task and promised him even more gold once the plan was complete. So Theodore threw the pebbles into the cauldron, which caused a puff of black smoke to rise above it. "Now," he croaked, his voice sounding like rocks grinding together. "What is it that you want, Adelina?" "I want to amplify the powers of this bell," she replied, her eyes gleaming with greed. "I think the smith who forged it must have done so with dark magic. I mean, who else would use human bones to make a bell?" Theodore snorted. "You humans are so superstitious. Don't you know that the ancient smith didn't actually use human bones? They were animal bones. Of course, it's possible that he used the bones of a very large mammal, but surely that would have made the bell much heavier." "Then what are we waiting for?" Adelina asked, impatient to get things started. Theodore waved his gnarled hand over the cauldron. "Patience, child. There is a ritual involved with the bell. We can't just infuse it with magic and expect it to work properly. If I remember correctly, the ritual involves burying the bell in the ground and then ringing it 3 times while facing the rising sun." Adelina nodded, suddenly excited. "And then what?" "And then," Theodore said with a smile, "it will ring of its own accord every midnight hour, summoning the souls of those who cannot rest. And since you now possess it, you shall be able to command these lost souls to do your bidding." Adelina gasped. She hadn't realized that the bell could do such a thing. But now that she understood, she knew that she would become the richest woman in the kingdom. All she had to do was wait until nightfall and then bury the bell, keeping the ritual a secret from everyone, including her own servants. As soon as night fell, Adelina went down to her cellar and retrieved a shovel, as well as a thick leather glove to protect her hand from the bell's rough edges. Then she took the bell outside, wrapped it in a blanket, and headed to the edge of town where the forest began. It wasn't long before she found a suitable spot, a clearing where the soil was soft and loose. It looked perfect for burying the bell. Adelina set the blanket down, tied the rope handle of the bell to the shovel, and with the glove on her right hand, she began to dig. It wasn't hard work at all, and in less than half an hour she had made a hole deep enough for the bell. She lowered the bell into the ground, making sure it was straight, and then covered it with the dirt that she had dug out earlier. Finally, Adelina stepped back and admired her work. All that was left to do now was wait for sunrise. Adelina returned home and went to bed, not daring to tell anyone about what she had done. The next morning, however, when the first rays of sunlight peeked through her window, Adelina got up, dressed quickly, and ran back to the clearing where she had buried the bell. When she arrived, she noticed that the bell had already been unearthed by some animals, probably a family of badgers or something. But that was all right. This was a good sign. It meant that the bell wanted to be activated. She put the leather glove back on her hand and rang the bell once, twice, and then 3 times. As the final note echoed through the forest, Adelina felt a surge of power unlike anything she had ever experienced before. The animals that had disturbed the bell scattered away, and Adelina hurried back home before anyone noticed that she was gone. As soon as she got back to her shop, she locked the door and waited. She didn't have to wait long, though, because almost as soon as the clock tower chimed noon, she heard the sound of dragging chains coming from above her. Startled, Adelina ran to the window and peered out onto the street. To her surprise, she saw a tall, gaunt figure dragging itself closer and closer to her shop. Its skin was gray and stretched tight over its bones, and its eyes glowed red in the daylight. Before Adelina could react, the creature pushed open the door and shuffled inside. "You rang for me," it rasped, its voice like gravel grinding against stone. "I am at your service," Adelina replied, forcing herself to keep her voice steady despite the fear that was gripping her heart. "You wish to command the lost souls yourself now, The creature tilted its head, and Adelina could see that it had no hair except for a single long lock that hung down over its shoulder. "Why should I serve you?" it asked. "Because you owe me a debt," Adelina said, trying to sound confident. "You see, when the bell was rung, I became its master. Therefore, everything that touches the bell belongs to me." The creature let out a hollow laugh. "You foolish mortal," it said. "Do you really think that just because you found the bell and rang it that you now own me? I was summoned here by the bell, yes, but I am not yours to command." With that, the creature lunged at Adelina. It moved fast, too fast for Adelina to react. She screamed as sharp claws raked across her face, leaving deep, bleeding scratches. But the creature didn't kill her. Instead, it simply stared at her for a moment before vanishing into a puff of black smoke. Adelina slumped to the floor, terrified. She was badly hurt, but she managed to crawl over to a nearby bucket of water and splash it on her face. When she looked up, she could see that her reflection had changed. Her skin was gray and dry, and 2 glowing red dots burned where her pupils should have been. Adelina screamed again, this time in pain and fear. The bell had cursed her, just as the old stories had foretold, and now she was going to die.